Yo guys, I'm back for you with another New World build video. This is the Firestaff Rapier Burst Assassin. And look, I want you guys to know up front, okay? This isn't some hollow and forced video like I see so many of on YouTube right now. We are really out here. I'm level 60, and I've maxed out both Firestaff and Rapier. I play this build flagged out in the open world, and I've played it all the way from basically level 1 through to 60, all the way through the game. And I can't wait to tell you guys how much fun this build is and how strong this playstyle is. The Firestaff Rapier combo pops off in all forms of content right now. It's really dirty in PvE and PvP situations. It's great solo, it's great in a group, it's great in dungeons, it has huge mobility, huge kill potential, and it's just a freaking blast to play, and I'm having so much fun with this. So if you're looking for a confident build to stomp with whenever you're outside of town, whether you're flagged up or not, then stick around because I think you're gonna like this a lot. This is a very competitive and high-performing build to run right now in New World, I promise you that, and I've got tons of juicy tips for you. We'll look at weapon mastery trees, attributes, gear, and most importantly, gameplay mechanics to actually help you play better. I'll also put a full link to the weapon builds in the description of this video so you don't have to memorize things or pause the video at certain parts. You can just reference that link after the video is over. And one more thing before we get rolling here, I have to recognize the huge support that I got from my previous War Mage build video. I feel like I blinked and I went from 0 subs to like 1,000. So for all of you that subscribed and chatted with me in the comments, thank you very much, and I see you. With all that out of the way, let's get it. So the quick pitch for this build is that you are a burst assassin wizard. You have explosive magical damage coupled with dashes, resets, and massive backstab crits. You are devastating from range and in melee. This build runs the Firestaff and Rapier. It runs medium equipped with lots of intelligence and some splashes of dex and con. You could also run this light equipped if you want. This gameplay style offers great mobility both in and out of combat, and what's great is that your dash skills also double as damage skills, so you're flying around enemies and through enemies and just chunking them at the same time. Now, make no mistake, the Rapier is a high skill cap weapon. You have ability resets, lots of cooldown reduction, you have a counter, you have a spammable iframe dash, and you are very much rewarded for strong mechanical gameplay thanks to the Rapier's Grace skill tree. If you're somebody who typically plays like rogues or assassination kinds of characters in RPGs, then the Rapier is your weapon 100%, and I'll show you why. Pair all of those elite Rapier mechanics up with the raw power of the Firestaff, and the result is a semi-squishy but very strong burst assassin kind of playstyle, which is capable at range and even more capable in melee. Seriously, this build just shits damage and it's kind of outrageous. If all that sounds intriguing to you, then let's take a spin through the mastery trees to talk skills and specifics. Before I launch into this, I want people to know that there are lots of good options across both trees here, and I do frequently respec based on what I'm doing, but this build that I'm about to show you is my primary setup that I play with the most. So the skills that I run are Pillar, Fireball, and Burnout. For Pillar, I take First Strike for 40% bonus damage against full HP targets. That's a significant boost, so it's worth taking. Not to mention it's an easy opener against PvE mobs. I don't take any passives in Fireball. For passives on the left, I take Fiery Restoration, which reduces fire cooldowns by 10% on each heavy attack hit. This actually synergizes with some Rapier skills as well, and ends up being pretty significant. Let me show you. So I'll cast Fireball on this dummy, and then just spam heavy attacks. If you watch my Fireball cooldown there, you can see that it's getting ramped down pretty quickly, especially when I crit. Pretty crazy considering that this is our best spell. Moving on, I take Singe, Clear Mind, and Clear Casting. Singe just adds a burn stack to something when you crit, which will synergize with the Pyro tree in a moment. And Clear Mind and Clear Casting are conditional damage buffs. They total 20% added flat damage, as long as your mana is above half and you haven't been hit in the last 3 seconds. Obviously, these buffs won't be attainable all the time, but generally speaking, you should have high uptime on these bonuses, so I think they're worth taking. Next, I take Spellslinger and Prophet, which just increases flat crit chance and critical damage. Spellslinger is insane, and when you combine it with the 4% flat crit chance on the Fire Staff, you're nearly at 20% crit chance on every ability you cast before any gear or attributes even come into play. Next, I take Flare, so I don't have to worry about spamming heavies to reduce my cooldowns. And of course, Rune of Helios at the bottom of the tree here is a no-brainer. This is the rune that spawns under mages' feet once every 30 seconds when they cast something. Stand inside of it, and you'll get 30% added spell damage while it lasts. If you want more information on Rune of Helios and how to track that buff, then definitely watch my other build video. You can go straight to the Rune of Helios buff tracking chapter, because I go into a lot more detail there. Moving to the right side of the tree, I take Pyromania because I have to. Then I take Let It Burn and combine this with Watch It Burn right below it. Watch It Burn makes it so that every light attack applies a stack of burn to the target, which is a dot, and Let It Burn grants you Fortify every time a burn stack deals damage. So when you combine those two things together, it's pretty easy to maintain high uptime on Fortify for 10% damage reduction. Let me show you. If I start spamming light attacks on this dummy, you'll see him applying burn stacks for damage over time. And as long as those burns are active, my Fortify is constantly being refreshed. I don't know why, but for some reason the dummy bugs out and you can't actually see the burn debuff on him. So if we take a look at like mobs, for example, this is what it normally looks like. Next, I take Kindle, just to make sure all those burns are lasting a little bit longer. That's not too bad. And then after that, I take a Combat Speed for a little haste buff after casting something. Haste is always welcome, and since Fireball comes out pretty quickly, you can kind of cast that on, on the rip and then keep chasing somebody, and that haste can help you run somebody down. And finally, last but not least, I take All In and Heat It Up on Burnout. The CDR from All In works really great in dungeons or for big AoE pulls, when you can hit 4 or 5 things at once. And the distance on Heat It Up allows you to create a lot of space when you need to, which can be handy in PvP situations when a Great Axe is trying to cut your face off. Now let's check out the Rapier. The skills I run are Evade, Flash, and Riposte. For the Rapier, my mastery setup is pretty simple. I run the full Grace tree except Desperation. Instead, I put that last point on the left over in Refreshing Strikes, which reduces all cooldowns by 1% on any hit. And notice that says all cooldowns, meaning my fire spells also get to benefit from that. And back over on the right, I also take Red Curtains, which again says all cooldowns are reduced by 5% on any crit. So my fire crits get to benefit from that as well. Looking at Controlled Breathing here, when combined with Breathe In the Evade nodes, is very good, and helps you keep your stamina up for dodging and blocking. So let me show you this. If I go up towards this dummy and spam my dodge until my stamina is empty, let's see how quickly this refills. Not too bad. But now if I go do that again and run myself out of stamina, and then use Evade and start attacking, watch how much faster that stamina returns to me. That's crazy. That's really good. Looking at Allegro next in the Evade skill tree, you can combine that with Flash to animation cancel, and it's a nice little trick for traveling quicker and getting around. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to dodge, evade, and then immediately Flash, or just evade and then Flash, and you can see there is virtually no recovery animation out of Flash, but we maintain that Allegro move speed bonus for a couple of seconds after coming out of it. So this is kind of your bread and butter mobility combo for just moving across the map and getting back to town and stuff like that. Looking at Evade again, we have the Crescendo node here, which is absolutely insane and is the cornerstone to the entire Grace playstyle. It reduces your evade cooldown by 30% every time you hit something with a light attack. This right here is part of what makes Rapier so freaking mental. Watch how quickly I can use evade while light attack spamming on this dummy. That is dirty. Also, check this clip here where we managed to pin this boss in a corner and just kind of wail on him. Look at how quickly I'm resetting that evade cooldown. And guess what? It gets even nuttier. Looking back in the Grace tree, look at the ultimate skill here at the bottom. Momentum. 25% bonus damage on your next attack after performing an ability. Every time we evade, bang, we trigger momentum for a damage boost. And if you're moving towards a target, into their back perhaps, you can count Adagio on top of that and turn the boost into 40% every time you cast an ability instead, or every time you cast evade at least. And all those evade casts, well, they're also giving me 20% move speed and 20% stamina every single time. Remember from Breathe In and Allegro? Disgusting. Something I found really helpful here was to bind evade to a thumb button on my mouse. That way I can easily hit it whilst moving in any direction with WASD. I sort of found it hard to evade precisely when it was on something like Q or E. So just to hit up the other two skills here, the riposte nodes are pretty self-explanatory, priority is nice for the CDR, and lasting consequence is important to give you more time to act after successfully countering something. That's especially important in PvP. Over in Fleisch, this is the dash skill by the way, we get some really spicy meatballs to play around with over here. Firstly, we get Quick Lunge, which essentially acts as an ability reset if you get a kill with Fleisch. That means Fleisch is your execute skill. If you're in a dungeon, you want to try and be dashing through mobs to execute them and kill them to get a free reset and cast Fleisch again and again and again. I'm pretty sure there's a League of Legends character like that. Akali, maybe? I forget. Anyways, next we have Backside and Interruption, and these two work together. Interruption allows you to cancel Fleisch early with a forward stab for 115% weapon damage. Now here's the spicy part about all of this. You can hit the same target with Fleisch and the Interruption strike. Watch me at this dummy here. I'll Fleisch through it and then whip my camera around and send the Interruption strike into the opposite direction into the dummy's back. Kind of hard to see here because of the walls, but if you look at this clip, it's a bit more clear. I'll elaborate more on this again later when we look at a PvP battle clip. And the last thing that I want to mention about Rapier in this section is that you want to be using all of your skills to get to the target's back as much as possible. Backstabs are guaranteed crits, so use evade and Fleisch to make your way into people's backs. And if you have your target's back already, then keep using evade to reset your attack animations and get more damage into their ass when it's exposed.
Yeah, I was debating whether or not I should throw a heal. I was like, nah, I actually got this.
You just gotta respect the 1v1 at that point.
For attribute bonuses, these will of course depend on your current level and your gear, but I'll give you some highlights and things to consider. You want to shoot for the 150 int bonus as quickly as you can for the bonus elemental damage, and you'll want the 50 dex bonus for 5% crit. After that, you should try to meet 50 or 100 con, depending. Currently at level 60 based on my gear, I'm at 200 int, 50 dex, and I dumped my remaining points into con just to give me more survivability. I've found that I still hit like a truck with 200 int, so I'd rather be a bit tankier than push into the next intelligence node because I don't think it's that good. Eventually though, as gear increases, you'll have more points to work with, and may consider pushing further. I think this is decent enough for now though. You can see my weapon damage there along with my max HP. So the pro tip here concerning attributes and gear is that you can adjust your attributes as needed to match the gear that you find. For example, if you find a really good rapier with dex on it, then use that rapier, and in the attributes window, back some points out of dex and into something else, like intelligence or constitution, because now you're getting those dex points from an item instead, and you have room to back some of those points out and put them elsewhere. Just make sure that you're still getting the node bonuses along the way. This is why the game tells you the source of stats, so that you can adjust things as you need to. Respecking like this does cost gold, especially at higher levels, but it's something that strong players will be doing often to remain competitive, so don't be afraid to respec your attributes to complement your items. And for items in particular, I just want to mention a few things. PvP gear available at 60 is going to be the commander set from your faction. It comes at 520 gear score, but more importantly, it all has the resilient perk on it, which reduces critical damage that you take. This is crucial for surviving in PvP against other players who have this high level faction gear. It also comes with refreshing, which gives you global CDR on your abilities. These are extremely strong perks no matter what kind of build you're playing, and that is by design. If we take a look at my items, you can see that I've got a few of these pieces already. And something else you may notice here is that I've slotted emeralds in every armor socket that I have, and I did that specifically to increase my thrust damage absorption. If you add all those up, you can see it's giving me 12.5 resistance against thrust damage, giggity, and I chose thrust specifically because that's the damage type that comes from the musket. I frequently find myself getting taken down by huge musket crits, so I wanted to try and negate as much of that damage as possible. Another popular choice for armor gem slotting right now would be to fully slot for fire resistance, since fire mages are so potent right now, especially in war. Your decisions may be different, but but hopefully that gets you in the mindset of actually making them. For weapons, the best you can be running at pretty much any level are going to be the purple expedition drops or the purple faction weapons. The faction weapons in particular come with very good perks just like the armor. You can see that my tier 4 faction fire staff comes with keen and enchanted. For weapon gems, you'll definitely want to get an intelligent scaling gem into your rapier. I would suggest a ruby to convert some of that physical damage into fire damage and let it scale off of your int. Going for a ruby is good here because if you happen to find any flat fire damage perks, you'll be double dipping and benefiting from that perk on both weapons, since your rapier will be converting some of its damage into fire. For weapon perks in general, the notable mentions here are Vicious for more critical damage, Rogue for more backstab damage, Enchanted for more light and heavy damage, and Keen for flat crit chance. And there is a specific perk you can find on gear that is related to the Fire Staff's Fireball that just increases flat fireball impact damage. That is probably going to be best in slot no matter where you find it for any build that runs Fireball, just because of how much it increases that damage. So hopefully this overview of the attributes and the gear and all that was helpful. Hopefully it gave you some things to consider when building up for this style of gameplay. Well guys, that's it. I'm going to call this video here. I know it's been a long one. If you made it until the end, thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. This is still a new channel for me, so if you'd like to join up and help me build something cool, then I'd love to have you. Don't forget to check the links in the description for the weapon mastery trees, and I hope you all have fun wrecking people with Fire Staff and Rapier. See ya!